Hi everyone, we have a very good video for you today. Firstly, this was recorded on April Fool's Day, so you might see some original Netrunner cards on the table. Most of them are called economy operations, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Now, today I'm playing my Kate from the previous video up against Argus Security, and it's not just any old Argus, it's SEAMUS's Argus. So you can bet there's gonna be a lot of action and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So let's get started with Kate, who just disembarked from her hopper, clutching in her hand a note by the now deceased Quetzal. This Kate only knew two things. Firstly, she must not suffer the same fate as her predecessor. And secondly, she needs to exact revenge. Let's get going. She approached the headquarters of Argus Security. Hopper left by the side of the road. She stared in awe at the brutalist structure, that towering menace that was Argus's HQ. Little did she know, she was already in enemy territory. A bunch of takeovers saw Argus claiming the land and buildings of many other corporations adjacent to it. Kate, destined to make things work, went underground, undercover, determined to uncover the dirty secrets of this Wayland Corp. But all she found was
bloody useless tip-off. I knew I shouldn't have trusted those dodgy news agencies.
Indeed, Kate had just jacked into the wrong server after a misleading tip-off. That bad publicity garnered by Wayland seemed almost too good to be true, and sure enough it was. Well, that was not meant to be her calling. If anything, it was Argus Security's warm welcome to Kate. The game had only just begun. Argus has been getting more notorious by the hour. Its slew of takeovers, almost unbelievable, as though it were an April Fool's joke itself. That wasn't the case. Well, whatever the case may be, Kate knew that she needed more time on her hands. She knew she didn't have the time to recover from that nasty snare damage. So, usually at this point, she would just chug down a can of diesel and get back to work. But she has a hyperdriver whirring at full speed and decided to make the foolest of it. Soon enough, she found exactly what she was looking for. A bunch of protesters on the street, calling out Wayland and their morality, or lack thereof. She promptly mobilized the mob, and they all stormed into Argus HQ without any forewarning. The employees weren't prepared at all. They were outright overwhelmed by the intruding protesters who went straight for the sensitive files and systems within the corporation, disrupting their undercover Project Atlas. Meanwhile, Kate decided to head another way, down a secret access passageway, which led her to... What the f... Clearly, Argus had anticipated her arrival. Despite her being clad out in iron armor, there was no stopping the neural networks that she was jacked into. And that was undoing. Because Argus could then proceed with their subsequent plans for expansion, and there was nothing that could stop them. Kate was crippled. She needed to rest, to recuperate, but the fiery spirit within her wouldn't give up. She knew she was no match for the server's defenses, but she was going to attack. She saw the scorched earth, a very timely reminder that her fiery passion for offense could land up in her fiery demise. In the meantime, Argus Security upgraded their defenses. They have since chased the protesters out. Those protesters have taken one for the team, their bodies strewn over, their meat damage tanked up by the protesters so that Kate doesn't have to suffer it. They're now gone. So now Kate's on her own, alone, in this world where no one bleeds for her, no one sheds a tear for her. she's in this battle all for herself. She once again goes for the frontal assault, showing no fear or fatigue at all. This must be impressing the Wayland executives. Perhaps. Who knows? In their eyes, she might just be an ant in the forest, unspoken of, unheard of. Well, there goes another plan for Wayland to take over. Kate tries to stop them, but this time fails. She hadn't found her trusty efficient decoder, however, using a backup of an old program that she tinkered around with many decades ago. She managed at a very high price to find the solution she needed to get past this enigmatic piece of ice. Well, I guess the corp didn't see that one coming. She stumbled herself into... She glanced at the sky. There was no trace of any black ravens, a telltale sign that one was being followed. How could it be that the corp knew, expected Kate to arrive at that very moment? It was almost psychic. Turning her attention back to her rig, she noticed something was up. Her body armor, her plascrete was still intact. What happened? Turns out, her R&D interface, her trusty R&D digging tools disappeared. Lay shattered in front of her eyes. Well, that can't be the worst, she remarked. At least I'm not going to fall victim to rule number one. Don't suffer the same fate as the green-haired companion. She's not going to get sea-scorched this time, not with her body armor intact. She played a bunch of programs, seeing that Wayland was pushing out yet another advancement. Heading in with her stone-pelting David and the ferocious lady, almost as if she expected the archer to hit. This time the archer missed its target, and she was able to plow through both the puzzle and the sniper. Reaching the end of the server, what will she find this time? She was rewarded at long last with vital nuggets of information pertaining to Wayland's fracking activities. She knew all along that they had been engaging in such immoral activities, but she just could never find any traces that led to them. Not until now, at least. Satisfied with a day's worth of work, she went back home completely shattered. You could tell, with no cards left in her grip, she was utterly exhausted. She was ready to hit up her professional networks in her hometown and start a fresh new day the next day. Unfortunately, she may have committed her gravest mistake yet. In her quest to avoid getting flatlined, she actually lost both her levy and her same old thing to Argus's defenses. Stealing that nugget of information on their fracking did come at a cost. She was chased away by the dreaded security guards, armed to the teeth. While she managed to make it out of the chase alive, she decided to let her body take a beating instead of her body armor, and that could cost her. She was out of recursion options. Analyzing the heap, she realized she only had one clone chip left as her only form of recursion. There was no way she was going to get her levy back. And her fiery attitude towards Argus meant that she was going to eat another one of Wayland's most notorious threats, a Grim, to the face. She lost her trusty Atman. Oh, such a good companion, gone down the drain. I guess that's something that she'll have to make do without. Well, at least she managed to slow the corp down, as Argus attempts to scramble back to business, having forfeited one of their hostile takeovers, so that they could install that archer at a very good vantage point. Well, what is Kate to do? She knew that she had that archer to deal with, and that Grim. with very few options available. Her David was in the bin. That was really her only shot at getting past these monstrous pieces of ice, and she had only one clone chip remaining. Realistically, she was not going to get a lot of mileage out of it. So now, the threat comes alive. With a single advancement in the remote, can she stop the menace? Well, that's not a big agenda, it's just another one of those hostile takeovers. Argus rather, has successfully conquered the entire territory of land around them. There were no more hostile takeovers to be made. However, it's far from over for Kate. At 4 agenda points, she knew she needed more. She knew she wanted more. But could she get to it? She was digging so hard for that clone chip she knew she had, but due to her negligence in the day-to-day life, it was buried under piles and piles of code. How was she to find it? Without a proper indexing structure for a stack. She was forced to plow through it to no avail, installing the useless stuff that would buy it only more time for the core. Even though she has been plowing through her hyperdrivers as well, which were whirring at full speed, those extra clicks can only do so much. Similarly, in what seems to be a mirror matchup, the Corp is digging through their R&D as well, trying to push out as many defenses as possible. They knew that Kate was weakened. Their defensive powers have proved to have paid off. Their investments into security measures, they were proving to be a huge hindrance for Kate, those snares especially, doing such good work. And of course, the threat of scorched earth, always to be respected. The clone chip finally hits the table. Kate has found it. A eureka moment. But how she uses it will really determine the outcome of the game. What is the Corp to do? Can they score safely behind the remote? One can only wonder. The game progresses, and Kate possibly decides to make an aggressive run. Unfortunately, with all her trusty interfaces down the drain, and one lay shattered on the floor, irreparable, she had to go in for single accesses. Not the most ideal, but she didn't have a choice. What is the Corp to do here? At this point, the Sea Scorch plans are off. Kate is far too rich. She has spent too much time in her hometown gathering networks and resources to overcome this beastly monster of a corporation. 38 credits to 11. That's the kind of money that a Corp dreams of. How can it be? Wayland's supposed to be rich, and sure, they'll maintain their economic stability by choosing not to res their defensive measures, instead leaving the Grim to take care of that Kate. At the risk of losing her dog and her Gordian Blade, she decides to bring out an Atman at 5. So this Atman will hopefully get through the Grim as many times as she needs to. Unfortunately, that was the last time she was getting through that. Seeing the Swordsman up in the pipeline of the Corp's defenses. Well, she knew that was a ticking time bomb. The next time an ice was to come on R&D or the remote, she knew that server was going to be sealed shut. Kate actually had some secret plans in mind. Can you see that? Maybe not, but once she starts drawing up, it will come to fruition. That's right, it's the net-ready eyes. This latest technology is going to save her bacon here. It's going to make her seem vulnerable when she in fact can get past the archer that Wayland Corp in general has been relying on for centuries now to keep runners out. That archer is going to be worthless when net ready hits the table. Of course, Kate knew that this new technology was unbeknownst to most corps, and thus she decided to keep it a surprise. She knew the Swordsman was just placed on R&D, so she knew that was a no-go. That was not going to be a server that she would want to mess with, but her heart pushes her on to attack, to go on the offensive. While R&D is out of bounds, she knew that HQ was always viable. She went in. Very risky there. Could have been an archer, could have been a swordsman, but instead, the Corp doesn't react, doesn't budge, and all she managed to see were a couple of as though she needed to be reminded that her life was on the line. But then, with her access to HQ, she was able to direct a political operative, one that would not come into any play at all against August security. That was a very useless connection there. Well, the winning agenda is in the remote, is in the server. It's time for Kate to show off her latest technology, the Net-Ready Eyes. She's ready to go. She's pumped up. This was her time to shine. It's time to grab the agenda that's out in the open. Casting call. It's a call for her. So, the Net-Ready Eyes hit the table. The meat damage was sustained, and she didn't really care about what she had left in her hand. All she wanted was that casting call. She pumped up her armament to 6, but even before she approached the sniper tower, she was shut out by the single advanced eyes that was Changeling. A Shaper's worst nightmare. And that, she knew that she was done. Without any access into R&D by Swordsman, or the remote by Changeling because Mimic is in the heap, with no form of recursion left, Kate conceded. While she was well and truly locked out, at least she lived to see another day.